I know. We miss you, and
Thank you for
actually,
hosting
Mama
me.
Umi and everyone is asking after you, and they send their
My regards
regards.
to them, please. My regards to
Okay.
them. I hope you come
Yeah.
back
Yeah, but
later
make
this
una
year.
keep quiet. With our family meeting, or you can't do for here.
All right, all right. Let's hold the pleasantries. The Hangout is live now on Channels TV's YouTube channel. Once again, welcome to this Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias, and today on the Hangout we have Ayobami Oyalo, or he's calling from in Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. Japhet Omojo is also in Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. And then we have Aminu Gamawa, who is calling from Boston in the United States of America. And today we're going to be looking at the role youths played in the 2015 general elections. Aminu, you were here first and you stayed all through the time while Japhet and Ayob gave us the Nigerian thing, the Nigerian time fact. Let me just put it that way. Let me just start from you. I mean, there was so much going on. The elections came, so much talk before and after, but what the you how would you say they did? To what extent would you say they influenced the outcome of these elections?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Matthias, and I'm glad to join my friends here to discuss this very important topic. I would like to start by congratulating all Nigerians, and particularly those you invited to this forum. I think if you want to know the role played by the youth, I think you look at the social media and you look at the demography of Nigeria. Generally, the population, more than 70% of Nigerians are less than 30 years old. And if you look at the number of people who cast their votes during the election, actually majority of them are youth. So the young people have played a very important role in ensuring that we had a good election in both in March and then in April. And they played a role both as voters and in also during the campaign. And if you look at the campaign of General Muhammadu Buhari and most of the state governors, actually at the core of the campaign, you have many active, many dedicated, many smart young people who participated in running and in managing the campaign. And I think for the first time, there is a departure from the usual approach of using youth as area boys, as endaba, or as thugs to intimidate others. And I think the youths are beginning to realize that the future of Nigeria depends on them. And I think the last election has shown that if the youth can come together, they are capable of doing so many things. The only thing I'm not happy with is the fact that despite their active participation in the campaign and in the voting, there is the number of youth who contested and won the election was very minimal, not very encouraging. And we hope in the next election we will go beyond just campaigning for others and beyond just casting votes, but also ensuring that we have people representing our demography who contest in the election, particularly on the side of the women. There are so many men who participated, there are so many women, but I think the number of men who actively participated outnumber that of the female, except in some areas, surprisingly, in the north, where unlike before, you see active and direct participation of women in politics, which I hope we're going to discuss later. So let me keep it short. I think the youths are very important, and I hope the politicians realize that if the youths are happy with a party and a candidate, it seems like he's going to win. And if they are not happy, I think President Jonathan will tell you what would happen.
Hello there.
Hello?
Hello? I'm here.
Hello, I'm still live, yeah?
Yeah, all right. Ayo, let me just come to you. Yeah,
Okay.
we're still live. Let me just come to you. I mean, you made mention of youths not being used as errand boys or thugs and all that. I mean, of course, if you look at it, they weren't violent and all that. What do you think was responsible for this forward step from what was obtainable in past elections and past
Well,
electioneering processes?
like Amino said, the youth have come to realize their power. That rather than becoming the mule that people will use to commit crime and atrocities, they rather can make a change, a positive change. And this has come about due to education, mass education that have been conducted by a few of us on the social media to make people realize that, look, the man that asked you to go beat up somebody for his electoral mandate, why doesn't he send his own children to do that? So the youth have come to a point where they know that rather than becoming political in the hands of a few individuals, these are human beings who have important roles to play in the development of their nation. So for me, the youth are not just the future of tomorrow, like they keep saying. I mean, the leaders of tomorrow, they are already the leaders of today. And that we can see from the way they participated massively and they make things happen. So for me, I think the youth are not just important in being used as political thugs, they are also very important in making sure that decisions that will affect their lives are made with their own consent. And that is what we saw in this election. The young people, we've always used this statistic. People thought maybe we just throw them around. That in Nigeria today we have over 70% of Nigeria under 30. And maybe President Jonathan underestimated what we were saying. Maybe he doesn't understand what we were saying. But we all saw what happened. The young people came out en masse. They were no longer going to be used to fight and beat up people. They rather are the ones who will determine who wins and who gets what. So for me, it's a positive development. Yes, there were some small issues. We still have a few violence here and there. But in all, we had a better election than we've always had. And I believe with the foundation that has been laid in 2015, in 2019, we will even have a better participation of young people. But like Aminu said, I'm still saddened that many young people did not either participate or when they did not win. But particularly, like he also said, it is saddening that we have very few female. And for me, the female are the main issue for us to develop in this country. Yes, we had some crooked female in the outgoing government, but for me, the female are still the best people that we need to encourage, because without their participation, sincerely, we will still be beating around the bush. We need more female participation and we need more youth participation. But let us look at if the president-elect and the governors will take advice from the affirmative action we've been asking for, that at least we have 30-35% of young people in all their cabinets. We are looking to see if they will do this. If they don't do it, well, they will keep to hear. They will keep hearing from us. I mean, let's give them a chance and let's see if they at least will honor their own agreement of 30-35% affirmative action for young people and for our women. Thank you, Victor.
All right. Let me just come to you, Jafar. Because just to pick from what Ayo said, he said the youths were actually actively involved in trying to defend actions that will affect their future. If you look at the way at which election monitoring went during the elections, the youth were actively, in terms of tweeting results from their polling units, and just to make sure that things, I don't know how they want things to go, but they monitor these elections absolutely well, especially on social media. What do you think could have driven their passion to do all they did while these elections were going on?
What drove their passion? Young people are often at the wrong end of bad government decisions and bad government policies and government inaction and corruption and all the bad things that go on in government. They are the ones that are likely to find being jobless. They are the ones that are likely to find being homeless. They are the ones that are likely to find being out of school. They are the ones that are likely to find struggling to either go out of the country or getting duped, because we form the bulk of the population. So it was either we took our destiny in our hands this time, or we let other people decide for us. So I think these young people finally, like Ayob said, with social media, other media, even Channels TV and all the other platforms, educating voters at the fact that they are strong, that their voices will actually count with the card readers and everything. Young people just had to, put themselves out there to basically decide their own destiny. And like Dr. Aminu said, the direction the young people went was the direction the final results actually went. Young people went for General Muhammadu Buhari, and the results went that way. And now the onus is on this government, the incoming government that is, to pay back. And for me, paying back personally does not mean to appoint young people into their government. I think that should be a given. We don't have to like have a conversation or argument about that. Young, competent people, competent women. Paying back would be to save this country, because Nigeria is in tatters. We are on the ropes. The economy is messed up. Our numbers are very, very poor. We have our stock is in junk status. Our debts are highest ever. Despite unprecedented income over the last 5 years, we cannot even pay salaries, which means that the people that are working for our government are not even delivering enough value to have their own salaries paid. And with something like this haven't happened, it means either those people are not delivering enough value really, or their monies are being stolen. Corruption unprecedented. So what personally I would expect this government, the incoming government, to do is to set this nation aright, set the foundation for a prosperous country, set the foundation for a country where rules matter, where incentives and disincentives count. Where people are fair punished. Where when you travel out of your country, you're not afraid. I know a lot of Nigerians that are afraid to say, I am from Nigeria. You're not afraid or ashamed to say you're from Nigeria. A country that's not going to be defined by terrorism and Boko Haram. A country that is not going to be defined by maternal mortality rate, one of the highest in the world. Child mortality rate, one of the highest in the world. Number of children out of school, the highest in the world. We want to be defined by progress. We want to be defined by development. We don't expect the incoming government to do everything, but we expect them to start to do almost everything, especially the essentials: education, infrastructure, accountability, openness, reduction in the size of governance, reduction in the waste going on. And then I think naturally other things will fall in place. The right women would eventually find themselves in government, not the Dezianis and the Stella Oduas of this world. And then the right young people will also find themselves in government, and then Nigeria will be set right for the future.
All right, Japhet, thanks for that. But let me just hold you again just before we go back to Aya and Aminu. If you look at, there was a high, unlike previous elections, there was a high desire to vote this time around. What would you think is responsible for this desire by young people to come out and cast their ballots?
Number one, the deregulation of the media. Unlike before, where it was a privilege to have your parents have TV, really and truly, a lot of people have access to TV these days. Those that don't have access to TV have access to radio. The North is a big example of this. And then when I say deregulation of the media, access to social media has actually really counted. Look, Nigerians are not even just paying to Nigerian politics now. They are also paying attention to politics around the world. One of the places where the elections in Britain was actually very popular in the world was actually Nigeria. So the deregulation of the media, access to media, I mean, with 0 naira, if you have access to internet, it's practically connected. That has actually helped. People are now a lot more politically conscious. A lot of people deserve credit for that, for not just focusing young people on things like entertainment and music. Those things are relevant, but also getting them to be interested in how we govern. And I think a lot of credit also goes to some of our celebrities who have used their position to raise social consciousness, to not just drive pop culture around the inanities and mundanities of being alive, but also letting young people know that we are part of the change. And if this country is in tatters, we are part of why it is in tatters. So all of those things and all of the other factors that I right now cannot remember help to make young people to be directly involved, and also help to make sure that their voices actually did count.
All right. I agree with Japhet on this.
Of course, I do, because I am an active participant in what he has just said. I know clearly how we were able to galvanize the young people. If you follow closely, the outgoing government spent over 2 trillion naira on their election. The APC government don't even have close to a trillion. So it was automatically a mismatch in terms of financial acumen, the power to buy the press, to make the press do crazy things that ordinarily the other ones, the opponents would not be able to do. The PDP had all the money. They were going to crowd out the APC and every other party from the press. And we all saw all the nonsense that was that went on in the name of documentary and all whatnot. But be that as it may, we on the social media, the young people, all you needed was your telephone, no matter how cheap or chinkois they can call it. or as long as you have your phone, you can buy 1 gig of data, you will be educated. And that was what counted for us in our own version of because it became too violent, and people. Am I still on?
Yeah, you are.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You are.
Okay. It became too violent, and a lot of people died. And for us, that's not what we wanted. So we were able to get our own version of a revolution, despite the fact that many people could not. Despite what the PDP did using the press, the AIT of this world and NTA. To tell them they were able to decipher between who was for them and who was against them. Nigerians were hungry. You come and tell me about trains that even you that you say you gave us cannot use. We were able to tell them, come on, this train that this man said he has produced or he has given you, can he use it? Can you use it? Are those things fit for human beings? Somebody said, oh, they've done agriculture so well. And I asked you a simple question. How much was the bag of rice when you came into government, and how much is a bag of rice today? People were being educated on the social media. Nigerians were able to participate. You can no longer tell me some stupid lies that I cannot confirm or do otherwise. You can lie, but come on social media, we will deconstruct your lie. And people will realize that, look, this man is just a joker. So Nigerians participated actively on ground and on social media. We use social media to gather people. I can tell you one thing that was very clear. A lot of Nigerians became political participants because of what we were able to move on social media. So for me, it was a personal victory and a collective one for Nigerians. Yes, social media was our biggest tool for participation, and we use it effectively, efficiently. Like Japheth told the president-elect, we use it to bring him to power. If he refuses to do what we expect of him, in another 4 years, we will be talking about him as history, as we are talking about the man from Otuoke today. So the onus is on him to work, or else we will not lick us like some funny young people will do. Because we bring you in doesn't mean we will not criticize you. In 4 years' time, we see evidence of government, we will be on your side. In 4 years' time, we see a man who doesn't know what he's doing, because he will be out of this world. So that is how it's going to be for us. Thank you very much, Victor.
All right, Ayob, that was okay, but just moving forward, let me come to you. Japheth and Ayob have just said quite a number of things, but in your own estimation, how would you say that youths were actively participating? What would you say drove their passion? I mean, they have brought different dimensions to that. What would you say drove the passion for young people to come out this time around and cast their ballots?
Well, I think I agree with everything they said, and I don't know if this conversation is going to be boring because you brought people that I really agree with, so I would just have said I agree with them and keep quiet. But I would like to add that in addition to social media, which is a strong tool that we should never underestimate or ignore, and I think one of the reasons why the Jonathan administration wasn't able to secure a second term was because at the point they treat with disdain and they ignored the feedback they are receiving from the social media, and in fact at a point they attempted to discredit it, and social media represented the reality on the ground and you ignore it at your own peril. But another strong tool of education is experience. We all know what the people in some parts of this country, especially the part where I come from, went through. I, speaking personally, during this Boko Haram insurgency, I lost my guardian, my uncle, the one who brought me up, the one who paid for my primary up to secondary school, up to university in Maiduguri. He was killed in a bomb attack. And the general impression of the people in the north, and particularly in the northeast, was the government was incapable of protecting them. So apart from the education they receive, they also realize that their future is in peril if they continue with this government. And the youth unemployment is another thing. I mean, many youths are unemployed. Those that are employed are underemployed, and those who are not employed are unemployable because of the poor education that they have received. So I think in addition to the desensitization that is going on social media and in other platforms, I speak on weekly basis on BBC and VOA in Hausa to sensitize our audience in the North. But in addition to that, I think experience is also another teacher. And with that experience, an impression that the government has failed by tolerating impunity, by promoting corruption, by enriching few people, and despite all the mantra that Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa, despite all the mantra that Nigeria is rising, the majority of an overwhelming Nigerians are actually in poverty, and their situation has not improved in any way. So experience has really been one of the factors that determine people's choice during the election and determine their participation. At the same time, we have our democracy, I think, is growing. We have realized that there is no better way of changing the government except through the democratic process. And you can only do that by coming out and participate. And for me personally, I dedicated almost about 3 months of my time not doing anything, only concentration on the election. Nobody is paying me. I'm not working for anyone. And this is the difference. If you look at the people who worked on the side of change, those who strived to make sure that there is change in the country, majority of them actually were not paid, were not hired by anybody. They are volunteers who believe in what they are doing. Unlike the other side defending the government, show me one person defending this government, outgoing government, and I will show you someone who has benefited either directly or through someone or has someone who is benefiting from the government. But if you will use your brain and you think critically and you look at what is happening on the ground, you realize that the last government has destroyed many aspects of Nigerian lives, and in order to move forward, we need a new government. And as the previous speakers mentioned, I'm also of the belief that we fought for this government. Without us, collectively, and the youth in particular, General Buhari wouldn't have become the president, and we will make sure that our voice is heard. And in the area of appointment, as Japed mentioned, we're not going to lobby anyone to appoint youth. I think it's the most sensible and it's the most common sense thing to do. But at the same time, appointing one or two elite bourgeois youths like Ayo or Omojua, or like myself, into the government wouldn't solve all the problem facing youth. We need to go to the core, to the grassroots, and find those youths that may likely be brainwashed and find job for them. So we hope, in addition to perhaps by involving us, they are not doing us any favor. We are serving our country. And I can assure you that in the next election, I will personally ensure that we have many young people in almost every position, so that nobody will say, oh, you didn't try, that's why you didn't get. We will ensure that we are active participants, both as consistents and as people managing and driving the agenda. The future of this country in the next 30, 40 years, hopefully will see majority of the politicians that are there now, some of them are in their 70s, in their 60s. By the next 20, 30 years, they won't be there. So we wouldn't allow people who may not be part of our future to determine our future and to ruin it. So I totally agree that the youth played a very important role. And I'm saying this without with all modesty. And the women also played an important role. We have seen defiance. What the last election proved was Boko Haram was defeated in terms of ideas. They rejected democracy, and the people in the Northeast came out en masse and voted, including some of the victims of their attack, which is a rejection of their violent ideology, and it's a rejection and it's a defeat on them and those who are sponsoring and promoting them. So we hope this government will take the issue of insecurity in the Northeast seriously, address the problem and address the root cause of the problem. I believe that if we have security in the Northeast, there are tremendous opportunities there. That is the area where I come from. I know the potentials of the area. We share border with about 3 countries. At a point, we are a business hub for all these 3 countries. So we hope the government will help in rebuilding that area and in addressing the massive illiteracy and the massive unemployment in the area. And if we can do that and also empower youth in other parts of the country, I believe that the future of Nigeria is bright, and I'm very optimistic.
All right, Aminu, thank you. So, there was one thing that please just hold on a bit. All right. One thing that that caught the attention of so many people during this election was the voting. There was one thing that caught the attention of people: voting pattern and party affiliation. There was some sort of level of some people trying to align, even brandish and say like the go along this ethnic and religious lines. What would you think? Because I don't think we'll be where we are right now. So what would you think change in orientation, so to speak? Because even before the election, some people were saying General Buhari is a religious bigot. Some were saying the Niger Deltans will do this. Some were saying the Boko Haram people will do that if the election doesn't go their way. But even at that, people still went on to, and which we've seen the outcome is that a particular political party won the election at the end of the day. Ayo, what would you think? Because you were actively participating in all these things. What would you think was the major turning point? Nigerians did not go for this. The gullible ones didn't go for all these jabs that could have swayed their minds to do what and passed around on the media.
Well, although the network is not very clear, but I think from what I heard, I think you are saying what was responsible for General Buhari's win, despite all the negatives that were said about him. Am I right? Am I right? Well, a lot of things were said about him. He was a religious bigot. He was a bloodthirsty, a bloodlusting gerontocrat. He was too old. He had no certificate. In fact, he was at times called the sponsor of Boko Haram. Well, all those things were said. But the truth is, we were able to present a man that people saw clearly that everything that was being said about him were untrue. He was a man who you can see through. This is a man whose sincerity of purpose, his honesty and integrity, you can almost touch and feel. So they said all sorts against him. They bandied a lot of lies against this man. They called him every name under the earth. But one thing that we that were in the campaign organization did was we never joined in the mudslinging. What they intended to do was to drag us, because I eventually participated as a member of the APC campaign. They wanted us to join in their mudslinging, in their referral fight. Faneka specifically wanted us to start insulting President Jonathan, calling him names like he was calling General Buhari names. But we knew that it was about issues, and we focused on the three main issues that was on our agenda. The three issues for us were the economy, corruption, and insecurity. And we were able to make Nigerians see that, look, all they were saying is not about the issue. You can call a man all the names you want to call him, but will that solve the problem of Nigeria? No. So what we did was to let Nigerians know that, look, forget all the things they are saying. The truth remains that this present government or this outgoing government cannot solve the problem of Nigeria. And we were able to show Nigerians clearly with empirical evidences that, look, this government has failed you. Under this government, we've earned the highest revenue ever as a country. Under this same government, we are borrowing to pay salaries. We cannot pay for fuel marketers. We cannot do basic things. Under this government, we have the highest number of children out of school, over 10 million. highest anywhere in the world. We have about the highest mortality rate. We have about the highest number of crime that you can imagine. The highest number of people that have died in a country that ordinarily was not at war. We were able to show Nigerians that this government cannot take Nigeria out of the doldrums that they've plunged us. So it was no longer about calling Buhari all sort of names. It was about solving the problem of Nigeria. And it was clear that President Goodluck Jonathan was not capable, was totally incompetent and inept in solving these problems. Nigerians were able to see with their own eyes that this government can call names all they wish, but they cannot solve our problem. So for us, we refuse to join in the mudslinging, we refuse to join in the name calling. We just show Nigerians the clear truth. Government cannot solve your problem. And truly, Nigerians were able to see for themselves and moved in, proved that truly they were in charge of their own destiny. And today, we are looking towards putting in a new government that we believe will be at least more responsive to the yearnings of the people.
Before we continue, before we continue, Caro just joined. He joined actually a bit earlier. Caro, thanks for coming on board, and Rosan Babatunde also just joined. But just to keep you guys up to speed, Aminu, Ayo, and Japhet have been talking about how the youths were actively participating, or how the youths actively participated during the 2015 general elections. They raised quite a lot of issues, they raised their concerns as well. But I mean, Caro, you came in when Aminu was raising some issues, and also I also raised some issues now. But how would you rate the whole process? What would you say? Where would you say the youths were wrong or right in the process so far?
I think the youth, some of the youth, some of the youth took on the same old things that the older generation did, and some of them actually were on the right side, because social media played a big part, and we saw some youths. To be honest, there really wasn't a difference between the youths and the older ones, because we saw some youths doing the right things or going through the right channels, and then some youths just being sycophants and just doing what they are being paid to do. So in that sense, Nigeria was the same. It was either you were doing it right, or whether you're doing your campaign right or you're doing your campaign wrong. It wasn't really about the age. Really wasn't a difference. Although lots of youth were on social media. Lots of youths were doing a lot of things on the internet and things like that. But it's sort of like, for me personally now, it's sort of like a shame, because we see lots of youths come on social media and say, okay, well, let's give power to the youth, let's have more youths in power, let's have more. Well, really, there is no difference. The difference between the youth of today in Nigeria and then the older generation is just age. In terms of integrity, in terms of their ideas, in terms of the way they go about things, it's just the same thing. But the only difference in between them is just the age. But again, on the plus side is, with the advent of social media, there are lots of youths who were able to drive issues, who were able to drive ideas, who were able to drive information through, because back in the days, we never had like information being disseminated on time, in real time. But then with social media, we're able to do that. And I think that was the major difference in this election. But if we're talking about age of the participants in the campaigns, there really wasn't a lot of difference. I think the internet was the major difference in this election, that information was being shared and passed in real time. Again, like I said, personally, it was a shame that people of our generation just went in the old way, and really, it's not there really wasn't a lot of difference between the age. It was just the same thing, really.
All right, Caro, I'll come back to you again, but let me just come to Babatunde Rosanwo, who has been on just a few minutes, and he actually came in and he's starting to attack Japhet and why Japhet is dark. I'm looking at the chat in the chat box, and Japhet is giving his reasons, but let's just hold it there. Rosanwo, thanks for coming on, and a lot has gone down. I mean, a lot of what has passed under the bridge since this hangout started. Aminu, Ayo, Japhet, and just recently Caro have said their own parts on how they think the youths did while these elections went on. I don't know how you felt. I don't know what you think was the flaw of Nigerian youths, or what it is they did positively to make sure that things went the way they wanted, or things went the way they had planned, or things went the way they are at the moment. What would you say was the key moment for you in all of these things, especially in the way the youths played out their own role during this process? I think your mic is on mute, Babatunde, put it on. Okay, I still can't hear you. Can anyone hear Babatunde?
No.
Okay, Tunde, apparently I think we all can't hear you. All right, while you sort your audio, we'll come back to you while you sort your audio. I mean, let me come back to you. You've been quiet for a bit of time now. Karo just made mention of some things, and he said he doesn't think there's a difference between the older generation and the younger one.
Yeah, so Karo is another good friend.
Things that
is another good friend, and it will be boring if we all agree on the same thing. I don't think that our generation is as corrupt or as bad as the outgoing generation. We are. Many of us at least didn't even have the chance to prove whether we are corrupt or not. But these people we are dealing with, actually, some of them have been in the system for quite a long time. I mean, some of them were governors even before some of our guests here were born in the 70s, and today they are coming back, and there's nothing wrong with them coming back. But some of them have been in the PDP system since 1999. They dominated everything, and it's not that they have proven to be better. So I still believe that yes, you can have a corrupt old politician. You can have an honest old politician, you can have a corrupt young politician, and you can have an honest young politician. I believe that I don't want to use a big brush to paint everyone the same. I have a lot of hope and confidence in the young people. Some of them, of course, for wanting to have money, may likely sell their integrity and do all the dirty biddings of the corrupt old politicians. But I think there are many, including people in this platform that we are discussing today, that will never sell their conscience for any amount of money, and they will do what they think is right. So I believe that I understand what he is saying, that sometimes our youth could be part of the problem, but I still believe that they are part of the solution as well. And the old generation actually have proven to be more corrupt than you can ever imagine. And I hope this is a ball in our court now. Tomorrow, when our turn comes and we are in the leadership position in this country, there are so many mistakes that have been repeated, that have been made, that we should not allow ourselves to make. And I believe that we should encourage and push for more direct participation in governance, but at the same time also for being the watchdogs. If there is something that we don't like, let's continue to give them feedback. I think we are not helping any government by praising them. I think if you are doing something right, everybody would see. I think what they should call for, and this is my advice to the incoming government, is that they should pay attention to people who disagree with them. I think the big mistake made by the previous government is to define everyone that disagree with them as an enemy and to fight them. I think one way of ensuring that they keep and remain on the right track is to pay attention to what people are saying, especially what the young people are saying. Some may be corrupt, but majority of them have nothing to lose, and they will speak their mind. We all have our jobs. We don't need any job from government. We observe things, and if we see things that are going wrong, we speak. And I hope I will continue to keep on this conversation. The old people, when they go and sit, you ask Ayo a very good question. Why is it that the religious and ethnicity card didn't work this time around? And I think people are becoming more aware. If Namadi Sambu and if Goodluck Jonathan and if Pius Anyim will sit in the same room and take decisions that is not good for Nigeria without considering their Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, or their Muslim Christians, when they steal money, they don't talk about religion, they don't talk about ethnicity. So I don't see if they can unite in causing harm and in damaging this country. I think we can also unite in uplifting it and in making it better. And I have confidence in the young people, and let's continue to educate ourselves, and let's continue to maintain our network, because that is one thing that will help us deal with the problems facing the nation.
Someone is back, and is back in 2 places. Let's hope it works out well this time around.
Just a minute. Just a minute. All my apps are just. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you need to mute one of the devices you're on.
I need to know which one. Okay, I'm going to sign out of one. All right, am I clear now?
All right.
Yeah,
you're clear, but just before you made there were some allegations being made by Caro and Japhet. Again, Caro is trying to say something that you haven't paid your Sky bill, and Japhet is asking if your MTN subscription has expired.
You guys, thanks. I would answer that after the hangout. That's a nice.
All right. So just before you do that, I mean, yes, we'll give you time to answer that. But for now, let's come back to the business of the day. I mean, where would you say, like I was asking earlier, the youths, yes, they came out en masse. They were in the forefront of election monitoring, in the forefront of campaigns and social media. But then people still think they have their flaws, and which was highlighted by Japhet and also expatiated by Aminu. But where would you think they got it wrong or got it right during the process?
All right. Firstly, thanks for having me on. I think I'm not a youth, so it's quite difficult for me to speak for young people, for the youth. I'm a young person, but also this panel looks like a pro-APC panel. You know, this is another thing that you probably get a more I don't know, opinion that's leaned towards APC young people. So that's another thing. That's a caveat. But having said that, I had a comment by Caro about right and wrong. For me, I think we need to be very careful the way we judge people when it comes to politics. Because you're on the winning side today doesn't necessarily mean that you're on the right side. And because those on the losing side are not necessarily also on the wrong side. The PDP or other sides of the faction does have brilliant young people, and at the same time, we have young people who actually stepped out of line. But you know, with politics, people get overzealous, people get passionate, and there are times there are bound to be mistakes and statements. I mean, the UK general election just finished, and in the 2-3 weeks build up to the election, we all know, those of us in the UK know how much sentiment on migrants was raised to the level of hatred, and it's politics. So sometimes I'm not too worried that we have those kind of sentiments among young people in Nigeria. It's all about the politics. My worry is whether we are building institutions that would last for long. Because if you are worried about the young people and their participation in the process, we're also the same people who called some years ago that there were not enough young people participating in the political process. So what we should be looking at for me, is if the institution has accommodated enough young people, and if with time the system itself will, you know, sort out itself, and they would have. I mean, young people tried their best in this last election, and that's because a lot of people were concerned about their livelihood. That's one thing you can always use to draw young people to elections. Once they were all concerned that, oh, the government is running down, I mean, the participation was good. It was excellent. The debates were, some of them were naughty, some of them were dirty. But it would have been strange if you had everybody agreeing in a democracy, then it's no longer a democracy. And in a free society where you expect freedom of expression, you must also be able to live with the fact that some would express their opinions tangential to the real issues. It's all providing a space for young people. I don't think young Nigerians some went too far, but overall, trust me, that was expected, especially when the opposition party was going to unseat an incumbent. You would have expected that everything possible would be thrown at you as politicians or even within the polity. So that's my response to it, that the young people did engage. But then we can now look at how they engaged and how far they went, how influential they were. That's another old story. But for me, it's a welcome thing. Some years back, Ayob and Aminu and Jaffer and Kari, you can testify to this. 3 elections ago, 2007, you probably not hear even young people now. You wouldn't. You just hear about the old men, the old whatever in Abuja. So there's an improvement. There is. Before we start talking about the quality of the engagement by young people, let's first of all accept that there's been a leeway for young people to. I mean, this is Japheth and Co. here. 2003, when Obasanjo was running his re-election, he wouldn't even listen to any young person. They didn't care. I saw Japheth tweeting this morning about the PVs, the card readers. That was something young people carried about and said, you know, we were going. So the engagement is there. I don't know what the future holds, but as Aminu said, this new government needs to be held responsible. It needs to be watched. Democracy does not end at just voting. It is until young people begin to ask questions from this government. I'm not scared about the new government. I'm not worried about the new government. We've seen the worst in Obasanjo and Jonathan in this last 16 years. I'm not worried, but I think people need to be able to question General Buhari and his type of government and give him the same, approach that you've given to our past leaders. Question them when it is necessary. Stand up to them when it is necessary. Somebody told me that hopefully with Buhari we don't have to march. I said, well, I don't think the marching is over. There will be decisions that will be taken by the incoming president that the masses may not be comfortable with. They should hit the streets, protest until he gives them an explanation. So that's. Let me stop at that and take every other person. If people agree with me that even the space being open for a few young people, which can be improved upon, is a plus for us in Nigeria.
All right, Maruso, there you go. But we're running out of time. This hangout was supposed to be for 1 hour. We started quite a bit late. We started about 20 minutes into the hangout. So we'll be wrapping up now. Aminu, I'll come back to you just to give us your last word before we go.
Well, let's keep our eyes open and let's be optimistic. Let's support the government when it does the right thing. And if they are not doing the right thing, let's speak. And let's not allow ourselves to repeat the mistakes that the people of the last generation made, and we all know what the mistakes are. And one key thing that is going to happen now that is very important is how to unite this country. One thing we have discussed about the positive side of the election. One of the negative side of the election is that so many friendships have been damaged by the election. So many people are not in talking terms, and it's one united country. The people from the south and the southeast. If we have to work to make sure that this is not a vindictive thing, this is not against them. We have to carry everybody along. We have to work together. I think our future, we don't want a future where we'll still be talking about Igbo, Hausa, or whatever. We want competence. And there are so many things. In terms of appointment, we should keep our eyes open. I want to make sure I don't care who is appointed from my state, but let that person be competent and honest person. And I think one of the feedback that we need to give them is when they appoint the wrong people, we should tell them. I think that is very, very important. And with that, let's keep our network together and let's listen to people who agree with us and those who disagree with us at the same time. And I think the future of our country is bright, and we will do our human best, whether at home or abroad, to present a good image of the country and to present ways through which we can improve leadership in our country. And we hope one day some of the people here will be there to be the ones influencing things.
All right, Aminu, thank you very much. Aya, what would you say as your last word in concluding this hangout?
Well, like Rosan said, a few years ago, you would not even see any young person participating in an election because, as at then, we never mattered. While I would not really call myself a young person, I would say one thing has happened. The space has been enlarged. The youth have been given the space to make their voices heard. While the quality may not be what we are looking at least the good thing is that it has started somewhere. I believe it's going to improve. And like one of us said here, I can't remember who, I think it's also Rosan, that democracy does not end after election. Democracy is a continuum. So as this government will be sworn in, we must stand by it, ensure it does the right thing. When they do wrong, we should be able to knock them right to the right path. We will not want to be the same kind of people that the past government, where everything was okay. The moment you disagree, you are an enemy. No, but what I would just crave is that when people want to disagree, let's disagree with sense. Let's disagree with the fact that, look, it belongs to us. We want to tell these people it is wrong, but we don't want to bring the government down. The last government thing, the moment you say this is wrong, you are an enemy. We want this coming government to understand that when we say this is wrong, it doesn't mean we're enemies. Let them listen more to those who disagree with them than to those who praise them. In fact, praise singers are the most dangerous people around because they will praise you to your grave. They all praise Jonathan now. They are the ones coming to say he's the cause of the problem. The same people who said it was Jesus Christ a few months back are the ones who are now coming to say, oh, he's a bad guy. Now, this government should learn from this. These praise singers are your enemies. The government should not gather around itself clowns who will just clap and jest and say, oh, all is well. The government should listen more to those who say, no, this is wrong. And by that, we will be able to have a democracy that will endure and will last even beyond our own generation. Thank you.
All right, Ayo. Japhet, it's over to you now. In conclusion, what would you like to say?
First of all, let me say that the elections are over. Campaigning is over. All the lines of division that separated us before the elections and during the elections, I think this is the right time to take them away. Those that have had their friendship fractured to look for means of realigning with their friends. As a country, we have a country to build. And like Carol said in the chat, it's not the first time that young people are actually involved. We are just a privileged generation in terms of the fact that we have more visibility. If Channels does not put me on TV, I can go and put myself on YouTube. If some other relevant news organization does not publish my article, I can go and post it in a blog. So we are a much more visible generation now because of what I mentioned earlier, a deregulated media space. And there's a lot we can do. Like I personally told the president-elect, he came to government, he's coming to government on the altar of change. If that change does not come, if he does not bring that change, we will do exactly what we did with the incumbent government. We will ship him out and try to make change happen. The process of making a country work is a continuum, and we have a responsibility to play our own roles. And we should not look to blame people too much, especially people that are not in government, fellow young people, because like Rosanwo said, everybody, you might be thinking some other person is the right person in Nigeria. Another person has a right to actually think some other person is not the right person or the right person. What matters is why you're doing what you're doing. So why did I support General Muhammadu Buhari, for instance, and why did this other person support President Jonathan? If it's in the interest of Nigeria, then we are both on course. Having said that, I'd like to say congratulations to Nigeria. I personally believe that we could not continue with the incumbent government. I'm hopeful that the incoming ones will learn a thing or two from how these ones ran in Nigeria and make Nigeria better. And whatever they do, they cannot afford to stop projects that are ongoing. They must look to build on what is being built and build new things where things have not been built.
All right. Build new things where new things have not been built. I hope they do that, just like Japhet said. But Caro, what would you like to say? We're closing.
I think this is part of the beauties of democracy. It gives you the option to choose whoever you want, and then the majority will always carry the vote. It was obvious, like everyone here has practically agreed that the presidency of Goodluck Jonathan was just shambles. It was bad for Nigeria, and we needed to make a change, not because we just wanted Buhari, but because it was clear that Jonathan wasn't taking Nigeria where we should be. And now we've got it. We've made the change. Going forward, like everyone here has said, we all need to put our hands on deck. We cannot snooze. If we snooze, we lose. We just need to continue to make sure that everything the government does, we're criticizing and looking at it properly, making sure that we do not fall in the same praise and praise singing that Jonathan had. And looking at everyone here, and lots of more youths out there, you know, there are people who are ready to take up the government when they are going wrong. And that's the beauty of things. If you are able to critique the government, a good leader, a good government will always look at the critics, and then make a change or make amends. So again, like I said earlier on, I know there are more people here who on media or that put themselves out that are looking to do things in a civil way, but then there are still much more who are still towing the line of the old generations that we're looking to push out. But again, let's just make sure that we're all putting all our efforts together and making sure that Nigeria moves forward. One thing that I think is really, really important for the presidency of Buhari to do is the unity of the country has to be really, really important, because the country has literally been polarized. He has to bring the country together. Everyone has to see themselves as Nigerians and not as Yorubas or Igbos or Robos or wherever it is. Let's all see ourselves first as Nigerians. And once every Nigerian is on the same page, I think we would have made a psychological step in taking Nigeria forward.
All right, psychological step in taking Nigeria forward. That's where he stopped. So where would you continue from in concluding this hangout?
I don't envy the president-elect. He has a tough job to do. The economy is in shambles. He has to make tough choices. And I'm worried about how he makes those choices and how Nigerians will react. So he probably has to do a lot of work in convincing us that he's doing certain things in the best interest of the country. And we should stop looking at immediate gains. We should look at the long interest of the country. We should look at generations. So say 20 years' time, what's going to happen to this country? So if decisions will have to be made, I hope he would be thinking of the long term. I expect that General Buhari has honor. He has a name to protect. And he wants to leave a mark. You know, that's why he's back. He wants to tell Nigerians that certain things are possible. So hopefully, I hope we'll be able to give him the support he requires, and at the same time, put him on his toes. Something with the last government was the dictatorial tendencies. Abuse of the rule of law, refusal to follow, destroying institutions. And I hope with General Muhammadu Buhari and APC, we don't get to have that kind of government, because our institutions should outlive us. Based on that, I'm quite optimistic, but careful. And I'm hoping that with this new government, Nigeria will be a better place. As for young people, I think there are a lot of things we need to push for regarding reforms within the system. The UK concluded elections just had a 20-year-old elected as an MP, Member of Parliament, which is the equivalent of what we call a senator or member of House of Reps in Nigeria. I think it's wrong that the limit, I think it's 30, right? In Nigeria, 35, 30 to be elected as a member of Parliament. I think it's wrong. These are things we should fight for, to have more participation. There's nothing wrong in a 20-year-old running a local council. Because if you don't get that experience to run as a council chairman, to even be in the State House of Assembly, how would you then, at age 40, age 45, be able to participate in national affairs? So for a young 20-year-old in the UK who's now a member of Parliament, who's still writing a final exam, she's participated in the local politics. So those are the things that I think we should also look for as means of political reforms, entry into the political space. But being that, I say I'm still optimistic, and I'm careful in being optimistic, not totally optimistic. It's a tough job, and I hope the president gets the right men to do the job and all the support from Nigerians. As for the divided country, I don't toe the line that a lot of people told that think the country is divided, but I am opposed to the idea of forcing people to drop their identity. So if the Igbos, for example, feel that the Southeast has not been properly, addressed, or they should be allowed to put their grievances to the government. The government is for everybody. And then the government should also look at it and not just say because they're Igbos or because they're Fulanis. Allow people to hold on to their identity and present their case, their genuine case, to the federal government or to their state government. And I think that will solve the problem rather than trying to suppress the identities of individuals within the. We have many nations in Nigeria, and I think it's right that within the ambiguity of the law or the ambit of the law, they are allowed to express their grievances and not take arms against the state. Thank you.
All right, Rosan, well, thank you also for your own contribution at this point in time. We'll be wrapping up the conversation. It's been a very fruitful one. We had Aminu Gamal from Boston in the United States. Ayobami Oyalawa is calling from Abuja, Nigeria's capital territory. Jafet Omojoa is also in Abuja. Karo and Rosan, you're both in the United Kingdom. Well, it seems it's just me and Aminu who don't have a second person from the cities where we are situated. But then the conversation went well, I'll say that once again, but then we'll have to hold it here. Thank you all for coming on board. Again, I am Victor Matthias, and it is a Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam.
Thank you.